Hi there, I'm Andreas Kapoulas. I'm the head coach of the Bristol Flyers, a professional team based in United Kingdom. We're in the southwest of England. We're based in the southwest of England. I've been coaching with the Bristol Flyers for the last 15 years, and I've been, for a period of 10 years, involved with the national team program here in the UK. I'm going to keep it short and sweet and to the point. So, what do you look for when you are scouting players? Do you scout American players any differently? In terms of what we're looking for is the number one thing is talent, ability. In terms of per position, or what are the specific characteristics that we're looking for players? So talent is number one. And then we're looking for high character guys. I think that's going to be very important for us, how they go about their business. Professional basketball is different to college basketball, and having the tools to be able to deal with that is very important. And I think the other thing is we're looking for work ethic, motivation. You know, we want guys that are driven. We want people that are about the process and getting better, and they want to put the work. And I think for me, they're the type of elements that really, when it comes to flyer scouting, really stand out. Now, in terms if we look at the American players any differently, I mean, not really. I think obviously with domestic players is you're a bit more aware of the market. With American players, every year you have new players, but you also have experienced players who are playing in Europe as well. So it comes down to if there is a rookie player, someone coming straight out of college, or if there is someone that has already played professional basketball. And I think with professional basketball, if they've already played somewhere, I mean, you obviously assess all the elements that I explained, but also you can see which leagues they've played and how they've performed there, and you can get more information from coaches. I think with rookie players, I think it's a little bit different because they haven't played professional basketball, they haven't experienced living in another country. So I think the elements that I mentioned again are important, but then also you're trying to get a feel of how they are as people and will they be able to cope with the challenges that are of being a professional player. Really, I think there is a certain element of a daily grind, if you want to call it, and not everyone is cut for it. And sometimes till you experience, you don't know if you're ready for it. So I think it's certainly a way of where I'm interview players. I can obviously see everything on synergy in terms of what their abilities. I can watch games and review, but also the interview plays a very important part in terms of our recruitment process, especially with American players. I mean, the interview is used for all the players, but I think with the American players, how they come across when you have that conversation. And usually on the interviews, I like it face to face as well. And obviously, most of the times is on stuff like iPhones or like a Zoom call or something like that. But I think for me, that's important. It's not just a phone call conversation. I think it's that contact as well. And you can pick up some things perhaps about their character, but also how they go about asking and answering the questions as well and finding out more about them. So do you review players' social media profiles? What are some of the social media red flags that may overrule other scouting aspects? I mean, I suppose the first thing I'll need to say is the one thing that I do find a little bit challenging is when I get a highlight tape and it has a lot of profanity in it. And I know obviously there is a lot of profanity sometimes in the music, but I think I never react well to it. Usually I switch off the sound anyway, but I think it's something that is out on the public domain. So I think the music, I will make it more about the basketball rather than necessarily the music and what it contains. So I think that's the first thing to say. I think in terms of the social media, yes, we do look at it. I think the first part of the aspect is, okay, do we like the player, how he plays, his talent, does he fit exactly what we're looking? We're having the interview process. And before we've done that, we will have done a basic research on the internet, find out more about perhaps, has there been any criminal convictions? Have there been any problems at college, things like that. But then when we go to the interview stage, we will also start looking at the social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and in terms of what are the no-nos, if you want to say it, I mean, like profanity, talking towards like in disrespectful way towards coaching for other players. I think things that kind of immediately stand out, like that the attitude, the character, might be of a compromise. So, it might be something that we don't feel reflects the family environment. And I think certainly with our club, but across the whole of Europe, there is a lot of family environments, and you certainly want to have players that want to be part of that in terms of the culture element and the values. So I think you want to see in the social media something that reflects the values of the program. And I think that's certainly the case with our program. Um, and we're looking for good guys, and I think that's so important. I think sometimes it's underestimated, and certainly the social media contact. You can be opinionated. There's no problem with that kind of thing. You can have high opinions, but at the same time, I think there has to be an element of respect, and you don't want anything controversial there that kind of creates tension and potentially it kind of some gray areas perhaps, or some things that when you feel you have young players in your program and you have a lot of families coming to your game, that it might not be considered to fit that type of environment. How much weight do you give to the college the player came from? If a player in a few years removed from college, does the former college play any role in scouting? Um, so I think there is a common opinion. A lot of coaches look at Division One players, and obviously they look at mid-major programs or high major programs to recruit. I think for me, I personally don't look at the school situation. I mean, just because of immigration rules here in the UK, players from Division Three schools cannot actually play professional basketball here. So that's something that it's part of the requirements for a visa. So unfortunately, there's not much saying to that. But certainly, players from Division One, Division Two, and NIA, I think we're certainly open in that regard. We've had players that have come from Division Two schools and had a very good season with us, and then they've been able to progress to other leagues like in Germany Pro A, and be one of the top scorers in those leagues. So I think for me, it's not so much about the college. I think there's so many good programs out there. I think there are certain things that you look like the win and loss record of the particular program over a series of years. How what's the system like, and has there been coaching change? Is there a lot of coaching change there? I think there are elements that we would take into consideration for sure. But I think for me, I don't look down in Division Two in any way, or NIA. And there's been some fantastic players that have come out and played in Europe and abroad and have been very successful. In terms of if there's a few years removed from college, does the former college play any role in scouting? Yeah, I suppose I will always go back to the college stats, because there might be a player, maybe the first couple of years in Europe, he hasn't performed as well. And you want to see his college form and how they've done there, and how the college performed during that time. How did they? What was their win and loss record? How maybe the last 10 games, how they did as a college team, because there are some teams that maybe find their way a little bit later on. Certainly we have guys that maybe they had a losing season in conference play, or towards the bottom of the conference. However, the last 10 games, they have been very competitive and have been able to even produce some upsets. So I think you've got to look at that. But I think it all depends on the player. And I think obviously when you look at the player, say someone playing in Europe, you want to see where they've played previously, what tradition the program has. So there's a number of factors. So certainly college is something that we will look, but we're not going to be looking down at programs or anything like that. I think the reality is you do want players that have been in winning programs. I think that's kind of important. But that's all cyclical, that changes from year to year. So you've got to assess it over the 4-year period as well. And there's some players that go from junior college as well. So they play junior college for the first 2 years and then they progress to go. And again, it's just understanding exactly where they play junior college and how they made that transition to Division One or Division Two school. So that's all items that we take under consideration. But overall, I've had great experience from NCAA Div 2 players. And there's some guys that have come maybe from highly ranked programs in Division One, and maybe they haven't performed sometimes as well as you will expect them to. So I think a lot comes down to the player, obviously his ability, but also his attitude and his mentality. And sometimes you do find players from Division Two or NIA schools that actually their mentality, they're so driven and they really want to prove themselves, and not everything has come in the easy way for them perhaps. And we're always looking for those type of players that really want to take the game to the next level. How do you typically find your import players, scouts, agents? Have you ever offered contracts to someone based solely on a combine? I haven't offered a contract to someone based solely on a combine. I think I usually speak to agents and we communicate by email. I mean, obviously social media, I think a lot of things, LinkedIn, all those different things basically that communicate. Over the years, you build a network of agents. I'm always open to working with new agents. It's not like, you have one group of agents that you work with and you don't want to expand. There are players that have reached out over the years, and I will always, especially I don't really reply on blank emails. I'll be honest. I think if someone takes the time to send me an email, if they kind of say, "Dear Coach Kapoulas" or "Dear Andreas" kind of thing, and they address it to me, then I will always take the time to consider. But sometimes when those emails that are being sent that have another 100 people CC'd on them, then I don't think that has shown a lot of effort. So I think for me, I'm open with different methods, and certainly there have been some really good players that maybe they haven't been able to get agent representation, perhaps, and they have reached out, and I will spend the time to review their highlights and their games. So in terms of that process of the import players, we tend to go for most of the time these days through for the search for our imports through agents. But I did have in the past cases where players have reached out to me, and and maybe we've signed a couple in the past. But I think the agent route just gives you a better representation, especially if it's agents that you work with before, or agents that go about doing things in a professional manner. I think that's a good way to go, especially when you start talking about not so much about the playing side, but the finances. I think having representation is quite important, because then you as a player focus on the basketball, and those discussions are handled by someone else on your behalf. What is your best player success story? Well, I mean, I've been coaching with the Bristol Flyers for 15 years, and I've been coaching over for about 20 years. So there's quite a lot of success stories, if you want to say. I mean, Daniel Idozi, he played for Iowa State, and he's been with us now. This is going to be his 6th season. He just resigned for us. I mean, he has stayed with us, but I think for me, it is a success story. Dan came from a high-level program, but he hadn't played a lot, and he has improved so much during his period here in our program with us, and he's our captain now. He played for the England Commonwealth team a couple of years ago, and his game keeps on elevating. And I'm really proud to call him our captain here at the club, and I think he's a great success story. He's gone through quite a lot of challenges and adversity in his life, and to secure a Division One scholarship and then to come to play here in Bristol and play for the national team, I think it's speaks very highly about the person that Dan is. So I think he's a great success story. But there's been a loads of players. As I said, there's been players that have come from a Division school to Division Two school. Someone like Rondell Goodwin, who he was here for a year with us, and then he decided to take a job in Germany Pro A the year after, and he was one of the top scorers there, and he's still in Germany Pro A playing for one of the top clubs there. Brandon Boggs, who came from Western Carolina and Division One school program, and we had 2 great years with him here, and we had one of our best seasons, finishing in the top 6 and making to the playoff semifinals. And after those 2 years, Brandon went on to play in places like Czech Republic and Finland, and now he's looking for the next stop in his career. So I think there's been a lot of success over the years, and I think it's very difficult to just pinpoint it to one person. Some guys, I think we've had players that have come here, and maybe they've been here for 1 year and they've progressed to another level. And sometimes it might be the same level or it might higher level. So we've had those cases, and we have other players that have been here with us maybe for a little bit longer, and they made Bristol home, and they certainly have played in high level basketball like Daniel Idozi has done. I think it just goes down to how you deem success. But I think for me, the most important thing is being a professional player over a number of years, and improving all the time, and being able to progress your game. And perhaps if you do decide to progress the different levels, I think that's what it is about. But I'm coming back to the last thing, which is about how do you go about handling your business. I think is I think for us as a club is, we want people to grow on and off the court. And I think for me, that's what success is. And I think over the years, we've had a lot of players that have come through, and the way they've gone about doing things on and off the court has really helped them develop, not just as a basketball player, but as a person. And I think that's what it is about, because it's about preparing them about, not just about life during basketball, I think life after basketball as well. And the people that have that type of mentality, that drive, that passion, and understand that basketball is a vehicle that can help them reach a new level in their life, I think it's valuable. So I think that's why I would say has been some of the success stories here with the British players. The one thing I would say is, sometimes with import players, they have this element where they feel they have to be putting the points there and putting high numbers. I think going to play professional basketball is not just about the number of points or rebounds you get. You want to help the program improve, and you want to enjoy other people's success as well. You don't want to be that type of player where, the team wins, but you sit quietly in the change room. I think it's about being something bigger. I think it's about being happy for the teammates, and if you haven't performed well, just go in the next practice and prove yourself. But certainly, I can tell you over my years and my experience, I think players sometimes think that coaches just look at the number of points that you put, but it's just a lot of other things that are more valuable, passing ability, attitude on the court, and kind of unselfish approach. I think sometimes there are elements that are overlooked, and certainly, putting the ball in the basket matters, and bringing down rebounds. But I think it's about the intangibles, it's about the mentality, and how do you go about doing your business. Yeah, pleasure. Take care, guys. Bye now.